What's up, everyone? Julia here.
And Trent.
And we're here with our Black Panther Wakanda Forever review.
What a fantastic movie. Ryan Coogler paying tribute to Chadwick Boseman. It was so emotional and powerful and really poignant, just what we saw and what was presented to us throughout the movie. And it really paid tribute to the spirit of Chadwick. And in turn, it brought out some of the best performances from all the cast. It was absolutely beautiful. And even from the first 5 minutes, you were a wreck.
I was an absolute wreck from the opening scene.
Yeah.
It was done, that opening until the Marvel fanfare was absolutely so powerful and so heartfelt and so hitting that it really did set the tone for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it really did. And I think that was one of the things that Ryan Coogler did so well, was he approached this movie knowing that it's going to be emotional, it's going to be paying tribute to Chadwick. And he does it with such a sensibility that it really makes everything much more beautiful, from all the character interactions to the setting and just the overall feel. We are taken on an emotional journey with all of the characters, regardless of whether they're the antagonist or the protagonist. It really makes you connect and feel all of them, and showing just how much T'Challa meant to all the different characters, which then drives their motives.
Yes, definitely.
And I think in terms of the performances, Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda,
Oscar-worthy performance.
fantastic. Just every single scene she was in stole it. And I mean, that's not to dismiss any of the other cast, because they all brought their A game. Letitia Wright was fantastic as Shuri. Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia, excellent. Winston Duke, hilarious as M'Baku. And my personal favorite, my boy Namor finally getting time to shine. Tenoch Huerta was so good.
Especially the scenes between those two. That beach scene, which they do show in the trailer, is so powerful and just so like goosebumpy that it's just like, oh, you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And it's at a really good point in the movie as well.
Yeah, and I think the way that Namor was presented, it paid tribute to his arrogance and his charm that he has, showing that he is the ruler of a nation and he's doing things to protect his people, much like Wakanda act with their own agency to protect their own people, which really made a really powerful dynamic between the various nations, and just how the geopolitical landscape was impacting both Wakanda and Talokan, which, speaking on Talokan just briefly, that was introduced in such a way that was vastly different to the Atlantis that we see in Aquaman, which was something that could have easily been very similar, you know, with the bioluminescence and that. But it was done in such a way that paid tribute to the Mayan influence that was in building this underwater city using natural lighting, and just the way it was presented, it actually felt like it was an underwater civilization that could have existed and been really hidden from civilization.
Yeah, definitely. All the special effects in this entire movie were absolutely beautiful, and showing the different cultures between the two was beautifully melded.
On that as well, building the music, there was vastly different music by composer Ludwig Göransson, where you had the more traditional African sounds for the Wakandans and much more fluty, some percussion instruments, a lot of wooden instruments to give that really different tone, but really reflect the cultures within that. And I think Talokan was actually done very well to build Namor as a character.
Yes.
He wasn't just built as one-dimensional as a lot of the other Marvel villains have been.
Yes.
There was a lot of Talokan lore put into it to show why he is acting the way he is, and why, or how the Talokans came to be.
Definitely. And I think he's set up as an interesting villain, because it wasn't that stereotypical cookie cutter.
No.
There are so many scenes within this. I just think of the meme of the guy looking at the butterfly going, the butterfly says fighting, and he's going, is this flirting?
Yeah.
Because he's so complex as a character that they showed him, even from the last scene, even more complexity comes through, that he's going to be coming in hard in the next phase.
Yeah. Hopefully we get more of him.
I really don't think we've seen the last of him.
No,
anymore.
and I certainly hope we get more. But Dominic Thorne as Riri Williams was a great addition. She was great.
Amazing.
She was so good, and the banter she had with Denai Guerrera as Okoye was great. She just brought a lot of energy and in a very sad movie, or emotional, not sad, emotionally heavy movie, she brought some much needed fun and light to it with her youthful exuberance, much like Winston Dukes and Buckaroo.
Yes.
They were really good at cutting through some of those more serious moments while also letting their heroic shine when needed to be.
What was really interesting about those really serious moments was they still added to it with their own, and it was a great movie to show really the different stages of grief and how it can affect everyone very differently, and how the timing isn't the same for everyone as well.
That's one of the big themes throughout is the grieving process, because there are time jumps throughout the movie where some characters have gone through the stages of grief and are at the acceptance stage, others are in the denial stage still. And visually, as the movie progresses, it goes from quite dark in the first half to more light at the end, and at the very end it's really bright and vibrant with the sun shining down. And I think those themes that are playing through both within the characters and how they're processing being shown visually, whether it's, I'm sure it would be a creative choice because Coogler is incredibly meticulous when it comes to attention to detail. I think having it coming out of the darker color palette into more vibrant and light was a creative decision to show that emotional growth.
Yes, definitely. One of the interesting things I did find through it was how all the little story arcs were tethered and nicely intertwined and summed up at the end. So something that begins in that first 5 minutes does come back within the third act.
Yes.
You almost forget about it at that point, but it's always hinted at throughout the other acts, but then it comes full circle in that end.
There were a couple of little arcs involving some of the major characters that would have liked to have taken more time to mature as opposed to being rushed through in the third act. And the only other thing that felt kind of out of place was, unfortunately, Martin Freeman's character of Everett Ross.
Yeah, sadly.
Was used as a plot device, and once used, could have been reworked in a way that would have made it not as out of place as it was.
I feel like that the moments that he had throughout the movie could have been done in a really nice kind of 5-minute bit between the middle and the last act, where it would have probably been a little bit more impactful to show how globally Wakanda was being affected and having an impact as well. And that's probably one of the weakest things I find in the movie is that transition between the second and the third act was that did feel quite rushed.
It goes from 0 to 100 very quickly. It goes
very quickly and you're not given a chance to breathe.
This is the nitpick, because it's a fantastic movie. This is just a nitpick that we've observed.
But it's like I feel like I didn't have that chance to breathe.
Yeah.
And then it just went straight into an epic fight scene.
Yeah, because especially when it did take a long time to build to, like, there was a very methodical and slow pace to introduce all the characters, where they were and what their motives were at that point in time, and then to have that, and there was a big character shift at one point that, as I referred to earlier, would have a bit more time to breathe as opposed to being alluded to early on, and then boom, here it comes. But overall, this is a fantastic movie. It is stunning, emotionally heavy, and it just shows how mature Marvel movies can be when they really want to apply themselves, and it shows just how vast the storytelling capabilities are for whatever Marvel movie. If it needs to be serious, it can be serious. If it needs to be lighthearted, it can be lighthearted.
I think it's definitely what it's showing potentially if we do get a Young Avengers aspect as well, because the introduction of these newer, so Ironheart and Shuri and that aspect of those younger characters coming through, where it can be that lightheartedness but still have those serious tones without being itself taken too seriously as well.
That theme was presented in here in Legacy, and I think Legacy is going to be playing a role throughout the upcoming phases.
Definitely. But
this was a great end to Phase 4, really strong. Ryan Coogler nailed it. The cast nailed it. There were some nice surprises in there. Yeah. And the action sequences were just phenomenal. It was visually stunning. Seeing Namor's powers work, just awesome.
So
but yeah.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
It was great. And the little flutter of the feet.
The little flutter of the feet. I still don't think I can get over how much justice they did do Namor, and I'm such a Namor fan that if they didn't do Namor justice, I would be rioting.
But
he was done so well.
I searched through 83 boxes for that comic behind me, and I found it. But no, I loved it. I can't wait to see it again. Tell us your thoughts on Black Panther Wakanda Forever in the comments below. I'm Trent.
I'm Julia.
And as always,
keep it nerdy.